Spartans! What is your profession?
Before I get started today, I want to give a preemptive warning. You probably hear a screeching in the background. That right there, it's not a sound effect. That is an owl that has made his home right above my cabin. So he's going to be providing the American Eagle sound in the background while I talk about what I have to say today. It's been a while since I made any content for this channel. And to be honest, it's been because there's been a moving in my spirit. It's been abundantly and painfully clear that we are in fact in the midst of a very real spiritual battle. The content that I've made on the channel up to a certain point was really dealing with things on a worldly manner, talking about relationships. What brought me to this space in particular was my own plight, my own struggle with my flesh and my desires, my addictions, if you will. One of the things that led me to make this video was a conversation that I recently had with my son. As a father, you hope that you teach your children, you show your children the right way to be, not just in the things that you tell them, but how you show up. And unfortunately, being human, a lot of times we don't see our faults. We don't see where we're failing until it manifests in our children. And recently, my son has been going through the typical situation where you go through a breakup, and in his breakup recovery process and his rebound process, I've seen a lot of things that were problematic, partially from what he learned from me, and then partially as well from the society that we live in. Now, there's a lot of things that I could tap into on this subject, but one of the primary things that I want to talk about is the way that relationships evolve today and the way that the youth misinterprets feelings. The thing that made me make this video, what moved me to make this video, was it's kind of a segue from my last one, where I was talking about the matrix and how our current society traps young men in this sensory prison, if you will. And after speaking with my son and seeing how he was processing loss and, getting back out there and speaking to women and dealing with girls again, he made a comment about lust, the feeling of lust being the most important component in a long-term relationship. And it was staggering to me because while physical attraction, what I would assume that what he was referring to, while that is necessary to couple with someone, you have to be attracted to them. Lust is that's a different being. It's a whole different entity. It's actually it's a sin. It's a spiritual possession. And once he said that, we got in the conversation, it really made the relationship that he fell out of, it made it make a lot more sense. We live in a world where everything has been turned upside down. The relationships between men and women, boys and girls, has been inverted. Boys have been beaten down so much that they don't know who they're supposed to be. And now this attachment, this longing, this lustful desire for the object of their attraction is such a strong influence in their choosing. And the problem with this is everything is built around touching that sense. You can't go on YouTube without seeing at least an ad for a video game or a dating app or something, and they've got some unrealistically beautiful AI model that just hits every single sensory, every impulse that pulls you to want to make another person they are tapping into that, and now it's become culturally acceptable for young girls. I mean, there's no age limit to run around with their asses hanging out. The gym culture has been it's pervasive everywhere. You've got girls basically wearing their panties, pulling them up in their snatch, doing things and putting it on the internet. And you've got children that can jump on Instagram, and at a very young age they're seeing these things that are moving their physiology in manners that they have no idea. They have no concept of why they feel that way. And I remember the very first time I opened up a magazine back in the ancient years. The first time I saw that, I was maybe 10 years old, and probably less than, I was younger than 10. And but I remember finding this magazine under an old abandoned trailer, and me and my cousins and the homies off the bus, we just circled around this magazine. And I vividly remember seeing these shots, and there was a physical movement, and I had no idea. I was a child. I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't know what I was feeling, but there was a visceral response to this. Man, I can't imagine what it feels like to be a 8, 9, 10-year-old child looking for a cartoon on the internet, and boom, you got a back shot with the monkey hanging out. That's going to have a real response in a child. And then the fact that we have allowed demons to infiltrate every single area of our culture, we are living in a very, very dark time. And so my son speaking on this lust being the driving factor, it was problematic, because when you moved with the spirit of lust, do things that are sinful, they're demonic. And when you're possessed by that spirit of lust, it controls everything that you do. You can be in a great, fantastic, wonderful situation, but if you have that possession, that won't be enough, and you will always seek out something new, something exciting, something a little bit dangerous. I know this from firsthand experience. The experiences that brought me to this space was my weakness as a man. It wasn't strength. A lot of weak men that don't have access, that don't have options, would look at my situation as admirable. But that's one of the biggest reasons why I speak against a lot of the talking points of these guys that say that you got to go out and spread your seed, bro, and sow your oats and do all that. It is equally destructive to men as it is for women. We can tolerate it more because we're able to process and deal with things. We're able to smash them down. But when it comes to things that matter, it has a real effect. But my situation was worse because I had a partner that was loving and giving. She would do anything for me. A wonderful, beautiful woman. And everything was about more. Everything was about conquering. And the way that I lived my life, I was literally possessed. And it wasn't until I ran into somebody who had a succubus spirit. The lustful spirit that she had was like an old nemesis to the one that was moving me. And they used the two of us to battle it out. And I for the first time in my life, I saw who I was, how I was showing up as a man, and even more, how I allowed this spirit of lust, of longing, of desire to conquer and disrespect my vows and my relationship, how that not only destroyed me, but almost destroyed everything that I held dear. And so when I heard my son speaking about how that was the most important part of a relationship, I had to unpack that and see what he was speaking of. And the youngsters have been brought up in this iPad generation where everything is instant. Everything is based off of their chemical response to the visual things that they take in. So you've got the phones, you've got the iPads, you've got all of these sensory overloads where everything is instant, easy, and detached. Well, those are the guys that lock themselves in the closet and have stock in Kleenex and lotion. but it's the same demon. This demon possesses everything that you do. And once you satiate that desire, you may eat a snack, take a nap, but instantly it's on to the next. It's on to the next hunt. It's on to the next kill. It's all on to the next. It's the next pleasure stop. We are in a world where things that are unacceptable, abominations even, have become accepted, celebrated, and encouraged. I say to young men right now, more than any time ever in human history, I believe that it's time that you really take a look at your soul instead of looking at these worldly things, instead of falling into this web of debauchery and sin, going a path that is little less worn than what everybody else is doing. That's going to be your salvation. That's going to be your peace. I believe that right now, more than in any time in our history, this is when you need to put on the full armor of God. This is when you need to sacrifice everything of this world and ask him, how do I move in this? Ask for discernment. Ask for blinders. Ask for the strength to walk away and to fight this demon of lust. This is the way that our culture has been taken down the road to hell. This one area, this one weakness in who we are as men has allowed our culture to devolve to the point to where we've got young children being mutilated in the name of progression, in the name of some demonic force. And now is the time for young men to fight this demon, to resist this urge, because these powers are smarter than we are. And this natural inclination that we have, this natural attraction that we have, this natural need that we have has been perverted. The beauty and the sanctity of this has been removed, and now this lustful for no better, it's possession. It is yielded weak young men that have no drive, no motivation, and it is made them more depressed and apathetic than ever before. They have no purpose. They have nothing to live for, and that's because everything in this culture, everything that they're shown, everything that they're taught to put on a pedestal, it all has to do with sexual gratification. It all has to do with living out one's lustful desires. Most of it is around sexual interactions, but it could be for money, power, fame. The unrealistic and unnatural, unhealthy desire to have more is toxic. And this is one of the most incredibly powerful forces in our culture today. Young men are lonely, they're broken, they're lost, because many of them are trapped and captured and possessed by lust. Lust is a demonic force. Lust is one of the 7 deadly sins. If you truly want to find your way out of this matrix of hell, the only way out of this is Christ. The only way out of this is Jesus. That's the only way. You can try to do it by yourself. You can believe that you've got it. But in that belief, you will only continue to get what you've always gotten. This world does not belong to man. It belongs to Satan. You must belong to Christ. Fight lust with everything you have. You've got to break these chains. That's the only way you can be free. Out.